Hello, this is Tuesday, January 12th, 2021, for Ancient and Medieval History. First, an announcement about the final exams. Um, those of you who are here are all in-person students. You are all required to be here for the exams. Unless you have a doctor's note specifying the exact date of your exam next week and saying why you couldn't be here for that, you are expected to be here. Failing that, if you're not here, you will not be sent an online version and you will earn a 0 for your semester exam. It will not help you. So be here. The exam, I'll go into more detail perhaps later in the week, is something that you should do fine on if you've been here and paying attention. But also, it would be helpful to look over your quizzes and exams from the past. My guess is that we will do the quiz or do the exam in such a way that you should be able to finish in time for most of us to correct it. If we finish and correct it and I'm able to enter in your grade before leaving here next week, you'll know what you earned for the first semester, because we'll have your first quarter grade, your second quarter grade, and your exam. All right? We're gonna need the entire amount of time. My guess is that most of you will finish in enough time for us to use the last part of the exam period for correcting. So it's going to be a big one. It has to be comprehensive. Also, the advantage of it being a big test is if you get one wrong, it's going to have a relatively small footprint. If we have an exam with 300 questions, each question is worth a third of a point. If you have an exam with 10 questions, each question is worth 10 percentage points. It's much worse to get one wrong in one of those cases. So that's the deal. You're going to be testing. Now, those of you at home, I've already sent out the information on this, but I will be emailing you the exam at the beginning of class, at the beginning of the exam session next week. That means that nobody who I don't email the exam to is getting it. You will be expected to complete the exam before the end of the period, simultaneous with the class that's taking it live and here in person. I expect it done and submitted to me before that is over. And the way I'm setting it up for you guys at home, that shouldn't be a problem. So that's what we're going to do for the exam. Any questions on that or on the exam you guys are going to be taking tomorrow or Thursday on the Unit 3 stuff on Rome that we've done already? Okay, I see no questions. Fine, then we will continue. It is harder to be a citizen of a free country than it is to be a slave. Not because it's less comfortable. Usually if you're free, you're more comfortable. Not because you're less secure. Usually if you're free, you're more secure in your person and your property and so forth. But the mental burdens of citizenship are much easier. In a slave society, you have to obey. Make sure you have your notes open in front of you. In a slave society, you just have to obey. You have to comply. You have to go along. You have to assent. You have to give your willing cooperation to your own enslavement. And if you do all of those things, you probably won't be harmed more than the next guy. In a free society, you have to think about things, take responsibility for things. You have to be responsible enough yourself so that you run your own affairs without the need for jail or courts or somebody else to step in and take control of your life because you've screwed it up so bad it's unsafe for others to be around you. If you are free, some of your time has got to be devoted to studying what politicians do in your name. If you don't, if you vote without looking into detail about what politician candidates stand for, you could be voting for somebody who's going to take away your freedom. Your job is to be eternally vigilant. Again and again, our founders and others have said that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Your freedom is a treasure, like a sack full of gemstones. Let's say you have been gifted, as a legacy of your family, a pouch full of diamonds. Diamonds, not only being a girl's best friend, are the most valuable gemstones naturally occurring in the world, at least that I know of. But the price, the conditions under which you inherit those diamonds, the family member that bequeathed them to you, bequeathed is what happens when you will something to somebody else, is you can't put these diamonds in a bank. You have to physically keep them in your possession. If you do that, then you can do with them what you will. But you cannot store them in a bank. Well, that's a hell of a thing. I don't know if you've ever walked through a bad neighborhood with a pocket full of cash. I have. It's scary. If you have those diamonds on you, the subconscious part of your mind is going to worry. Do others know it? Do they sense it? What if they rob me? What if they take this, my legacy? What if they take this, my security for the future? What if they're going to wait for me because somehow the secret has gotten out? How do I protect myself? Do I have to take karate classes? Do I have to carry a gun? How do I protect myself? Do I have to carefully plan the route between home and work every single day? How I'm going to go to the grocery store? When? Just to avoid thieves? Avoid the likelihood? What about when I'm home? Do I put the diamonds in a safe in my home? Or do I hide them under a rock in the backyard? What do I do? See, you're being given those diamonds, but you're also being given the endless duty of defending them and protecting them. Your freedom is like that. Your freedom is your ability to choose things important in your life. Not to be told where to live, what to do for a living, who to live with, who to love, what to think. But being able to do those, to decide those things all yourself. All by yourself. That's a precious thing. That's real adulthood. That's something that people around the world throughout our history dreamt about, but many of them never experienced. And you folks have every reason to hope that by the time you become full adults in a very few short years, you will have the freedom of an adult American in our republic, being able to make the important decisions, not only about your life, but about the lives of others in your vote. Maybe you'll choose to serve in the military. Maybe you'll choose to get involved in politics. Maybe you'll do volunteer work in the community. It's your choice. But the world is filled with people who want to play God. The world is filled with people who want to take that choice from you. I can't tell you the number of times when I was a college student, when I heard people tut and say, you can't trust people to do the right thing. You can't trust people to wear seatbelts. You can't trust people not to pollute. You can't trust people to quit smoking on their own. People will not do what you think they should do. And these people always then went on to say, you got to nudge them. You got to force them. You got to compel them. To which I say, you don't believe in freedom very much, do you? Because freedom involves people doing the wrong thing without you getting in their face about it all the time. It involves tolerating other points of view and accepting that your point of view is just an opinion, not a revealed truth from the Lord God Almighty's mouth himself. The number of people that want to be meddlesome in your life and tell you how to live and what to do with your life is myriad. And some of them go into politics. A free society, any free society, is an ongoing experiment. You roll the dice every generation. Do you keep your freedom or do you lose it? We've been really lucky. For 233 years, since the first presidential election, we've kept it. We'll see what happens in the future. but it is a treasure. And for the Romans, they thought that it required auctoritas, dignitas, gravitas, pietas. Carrying yourself with authority and dignity, being grave, that's serious, and being faithful and patriotic, loyal to your household and to your household gods and to your nation. All of these things bring you out of yourself. No, you are not the bright shining center of the universe. No, we are not all here for your pleasure. No, the world does not owe you a frickin' thing. It doesn't owe you a living. It doesn't owe you a future. You have to earn your way in a world crowded with people who are just as valuable as you are. An adult appreciates this. But it's so hard to be an adult. It's so much more easy to live like a child without thinking, selfishly, short term, always short term, pleasure principle. Oh, see, want, take, see, want, take. Consequences are for other people, little people, not me. I'm special. That is not adult thinking, and it's not the thinking that keeps a society free. So bear this in mind. Republican Romans were very proud people. They were proud because they know how hard they worked. They knew how hard they worked at being worthy of freedom. I don't know if you've ever been given a gift by someone that you didn't ask for, that you didn't deserve, but that was more wonderful than you ever could have imagined. I have. In that moment, I felt such joy and gratitude. In that moment, I wanted to be the best person I possibly could be for them. Not because they bought me off with a trifle, but because they surprised me by caring enough to come up with this amazing gift. A gift that I never expected. Wanting to be your best self because somebody has impressed you with how thoughtful they can be is a bit like the way a free person should react to the gift of freedom. On some level, I hope, whether now or in the future, that you'll appreciate freedom. And that in your gratitude of the freedom that you have been given, you might actually go out of your way to do something special for the people around you, or for the world, or for the republic. You might go out of your way and be extra helpful, or extra useful, or extra good. Now we're going to look at the Roman family. The Roman family is, like all families, the basis of society. Family is the first big institution that human beings cohere to. We talked about this when we talked about what a civilization is. Family is the most fundamental, complex institution. Families teach you how to button your shirt, how to zip your fly, how to eat at a table without embarrassing yourself and others. Family teaches you how to be clean, how to be respectful, how to be honest, how to be true. Family teaches you how to work and how to play and how to relate to people. The most basic lessons a person learns are from family. Do you have a question there? So family is really, really, really a very big deal. Now, there's also the church. If you were raised in a faith, they're also going to help teach you right from wrong, good from evil, but the church teaches different lessons. School. I'm here to teach you to become members of Western civilization. I am here to teach you to become partners of mine in keeping our freedom in this republic. I am here to teach you why what you've been given has come at a terrible cost to others. Because the freedom that comes to you as a gift, freely given, was earned by people with blood and sweat and toil and tears. Family, to a lesser extent, church and school, but family's the big one. This is why family is always targeted by totalitarians, by dictators. in the Nazi regime of Hitler, in the communist regime of Stalin, in North Korea and China today, in Cuba and Venezuela today. People are not primarily members of a family. They are members of the state and the nation. They are not primarily owned by their parents. They are owned by the party and the leader. If you are a young person in Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia or any of these other police states, you're probably going to be recruited into the equivalent of their Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts. But it's not like our Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts that teach you knot tying and how to keep a campfire safe. The Hitler Youth is the German version of the Boy Scouts. The Young Communist League, or Komsomols, is the Soviet version of the Boy Scouts. And all of them are about brainwashing young people, teaching them to think and act and be like a Nazi or like a communist, so that you don't have a mind of your own. They program you at vulnerable ages. They teach you not to think, just to react. Not to think, just to feel. Not to think, just to react. If you're not thinking and you're reacting the way they trained you, you are theirs. They own you. In all cases, if you're a member of the Hitler Youth or the Young Communist League or something like that, you spy on your family. You make regular reports on everyone in your family. And if anyone of your family does anything wrong, you report it. You report your own flesh and blood. You report your own father and mother, because the party is father, the party is mother, the leader is father, the leader is mother. Your blood relatives are much less important than your relatives in the faith, in the cult, in the party, in the state. So, family is undermined purposefully by these insatiably hungry parties and governments and leaders who want power over your mind and over your thoughts, over your identity and over your future. That is what they want. So they will turn children against parents, brothers against sisters, everyone spying on everyone tattling on everyone. Ooh, I'm going to tell! And of course, you wield power that way. Because if mom and dad know that you're going to tell on them, and they're going to go to a re-education camp, or a death camp, or a labor camp, because of something you said, before you're old enough to appreciate the evil that you've just taken part in, it's done. It's too late. They're gone. And you did it. You did it to them. It's scary stuff. In the late 1990s, a woman from Cuba took her young son, made a raft, and swam into the Florida Strait between the island of Cuba and the American state of Florida. She was fleeing the Castro communist regime in Cuba. She died in the crossing, but her son, Elian Gonzalez, arrived on the coast of Florida feet dry. He had an uncle who ran a car dealership in Miami, and she had saved her son from communism and brought him to freedom. And she was not only willing to die to do this, she did die to do this. Now that story has been repeated many times. A lot of people want to come here, not for economic reasons. They want to come here as refugees fleeing from tyranny. Everything should have been fine. But the Cuban government started squawking. You see, that mother had been divorced from her husband. And suddenly her husband, with Communist Party officials behind him like a wall, started complaining to the world that my son has been taken from me by this woman. And I want him back. I am the father. I should have my son back. Not his uncle, but me. And I saw this all around America. People who should have known better started talking about the rights of the father in a divorce. And wouldn't it be better for the son to be raised by the father? It's Cuba! Communist Cuba! No child is raised by their parents. Children are raised by the party, by the Communist Party. The parents don't have power over that child. The party does. That man was being used by his government to get the boy back from the United States to win propaganda points. He was not going to be the important decision maker in that little boy's life. No free person is under communism. In the middle of the night, at gunpoint, federal agents broke into the uncle's home. At gunpoint, they took the boy away from his family in Miami and sent him back to Florida. Not to Florida, to Cuba. That boy became a poster child for communism. He had all the best because he was living proof that life in communist Cuba was better than life in the United States of America. But I'm telling you, the father made no important decisions because he was in a society where no individual is allowed to make the important decisions in their life. That would require freedom. All right. Yes. Yeah. No, Cuba, unfortunately, is still communist. That means I have relatives there who are still slaving under the yoke of communism. Yeah. Fidel Castro, the original communist dictator, died several years ago, but his brother Raul rules the place like a prison camp. Yeah, unfortunately it is. Okay, so what is the Roman family like? Well, the Romans absolutely insist on the important value of the family. So the leader of the family is called the paterfamilias. The paterfamilias is the father of the family. He is the oldest active male in the family. Now, the paterfamilias might be your great-grandfather, depending upon how healthy it is, your grandfather, your uncle, maybe even your father. The oldest active male in the family. There may be somebody older who's gone senile. They're not the paterfamilias anymore. They're to be treated with respect and reverence, but they're not the decision maker. Here's the thing. If you're a Roman male, forget being a female. Females are always under the authority of whatever male is closely related to them, their father, their brother, their husband, their son. But if you're a Roman male, do you know when you become a free and independent adult, independent of your father's authority? Yeah?
Isn't it when you go into the military?
That would be logical.
Isn't it when he's dead or senile?
Yeah.
Oh.
You never outgrow your father's authority. You could be a 45-year-old Roman senator. If your old man is still around, you do what he says. He has the power to command you. He has the power of life and death. You would think that once you go into the military, which Roman men usually did, no. You have to be the paterfamilias yourself. Otherwise, you are under your paterfamilias. You could be a father. You could be a grandfather. You are under your father's authority his entire life. So, what does that mean? What are the limits of the authority of the paterfamilias? Well, the paterfamilias is like the king of his own little kingdom. The kingdom is the family. Like a king, the paterfamilias has the power of life and death over everyone in the family. Life and death. None of this anti-child abuse law stuff. No. If daddy determines, if the paterfamilias determines that you have dishonored the family, and that the appropriate punishment is to have your left arm chopped off, he'll chop it off or have it chopped off. And he's perfectly within the law. If he decides that your dishonor deserves death, you're going to die, he'll kill you. There's a saying that used to be in comedy. The father says to the son, "Kid, you're annoying me. Remember, I brought you into this world. I can take you out." Well, in the case of a paterfamilias, that's literally true. True story of this authority. Again, it involves Claudius, the sort of feeble member of the Augustan imperial family. Claudius, as a young man, has a sister. His sister is a member of the imperial family. So she's very, 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 very high class. The emperor at the time is a man named Tiberius, the second Roman emperor. And Tiberius is sort of a hands-off emperor. He hands over a lot of his power to the captain of his guard, a guy named Sejanus, Lucius Aelius Sejanus. So Tiberius is on vacation on his pleasure island of Capri most of the year. He lets Lucius Aelius Sejanus, his guard captain, run things for him. Well, Sejanus, who's a lowborn guy, who's been given all this authority by the emperor who trusts him, is an ambitious man. He wants more. He wants more. He's a Roman, ambitious, ruthless, and so forth. One of the ways that Sejanus is going to accomplish things is he starts an affair with Claudius's sister, who's married to another man. They drug that other man and have sex while that man's sleeping body is in the bed next to them. This is about Sejanus winning one over on the imperial family. He's going to have his lover, the sister of Claudius, kill her husband with poison, which she does. And then he's going to marry her, and by marriage become a member of the imperial family. Once that happens, he'll use the power of his office and kill the emperor. And he will then be emperor. That's his plan. Well, thanks to feeble Claudius, that plan is exposed. Now, Claudius should be the paterfamilias of his branch of the family, but he's feeble. So his mother actually takes on that role. That's a very rare thing for a mother to do, but in this case, the materfamilias, she's gonna act in loco paterfamilias, in the place of the father of the family. When she finds out about what her daughter did, she invites her daughter over to dinner one night. The daughter, the faithless daughter who murdered her husband, who's getting ready to become the wife of Sejanus, shows up all happiness and unaware. And the mother invites the girl up to her old bedchambers, a suite of rooms where she grew up. And then the mother leaves the woman there, and locks her in. For the next several days, the girl screams. There's no food, there's no water, she's locked in. Her mother sits at the doorway day after day until the cries stop. She kills her daughter that way, because her daughter, by murdering her husband, by conspiring to marry another man after murdering her husband, by all the betrayals, dishonored the family so much that the only atonement was her blood. And the punishment that the mother paid for raising a daughter so vile was to sit there and listen day after day as she died. She was perfectly within her rights. It's paterfamilias stuff. The family is inviolate, sacrosanct. You can't mess with the way a family operates. So the Roman government never got in between a parent and their child. The Roman government did not get involved in family matters. Paterfamilias was supposed to run things. Only if the paterfamilias broke down might the law get involved. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Then we talk about patron-client relationships. A patron is anyone who is old, rich, and powerful, and is willing to use their wealth and power in return for loyalty. The old, rich, and powerful person wants loyalty. They want the loyalty of young, energetic people. A client is somebody who's young and just starting out, who needs the wealth and connections and advice of an older, wealthier, more powerful person. And in return for that help and guidance, a client will give their loyalty. It's a personal pledge between one man and another. You lead, I follow. You command, I obey. You help me, I help you. You give me access to money, power, and connections. I give you my body. I give you my dedication. I give you my service. That's how it works. Now, the scene we saw in The Godfather, even though it's set in modern times and in America, is very much about this thing. It is the establishment of a patron-client relationship between the mafia crime boss, Vito Corleone, and the undertaker, Buonasera, which in Italian means good night. So, the undertaker's daughter was beaten by a group of Americans, in other words, white boys, on a date. They disfigured her face. The undertaker, being a good American, goes to the police. The boys are arrested, they're put on trial, but the case is thrown out and the judge suspends the sentence. So actually, no, the case is not thrown out. They're found guilty. But for reasons of his own, the judge does not punish them. He suspends the sentence. He's saying, naughty boys, don't do that again. If you do, you're going to pay for this and your next sin. Suspend the sentence. The undertaker's daughter is going to go unavenged. And for an Italian, vengeance matters. It's not just that justice must be done. The guilty must pay. And the police and the justice system has failed in that, which it often does. I come from a family of police. I can tell you it's horrific the number of times guilty people, evidently, obviously guilty people, get off because of technicalities or because of live lawyers or whatever. It's horrific. So the undertaker goes to the crime boss. And he expects that the tradition that a Sicilian cannot refuse any request made on his daughter's wedding day is going to allow the undertaker to do a contract to put a hit out on those two men that disfigured his daughter, murder for money. But he misunderstands the actuality of the relationship. He assumes, like an American, it's about the money. It's impersonal. No. To a Roman, and this is what this is stuff going back to the Roman Empire. To a Roman, nothing is more precious than loyalty. Loyalty, willingly given. Loyalty, faithfulness, fidelity. It's a personal thing. It's not impersonal. It's not about the money. So the Godfather slowly explains to him, you never invited me to your home. You never even think to call me Godfather. You don't come to me as a friend. Instead, you ask me on my daughter's wedding day to do murder for money. You don't understand. You are treating me with great disrespect. Well, Buonasera is treating him like an American who wants to buy something. He's commissioning a service, like you hire a guy to build you a swimming pool or repave your driveway. That's not what it is. The old Italian, it's about a personal bond of loyalty. When the undertaker is taught this, he bows, kisses the ring of the Godfather, and basically says, command me. At that point, the crime boss says, good. Your men will suffer as your daughter suffers. Someday, so the punishment is proportionate to the crime. It's an eye for an eye justice. She's disfigured but still alive. They're going to be disfigured but still alive. Now we come to the price. How much money? The crime boss says, someday, and that day may never come, I will ask for you to do me a service. Until that day, accept this as a gift of my daughter's wedding. What that means is there's no money. There's no receipt. There's no exchange of wealth. There's a promise to do a service? Well, what does that mean? It could mean anything. That is the biggest thing you can agree to do. I'm now bound to do an unspecified service for a mafia crime boss? What's he going to want me to do? Murder someone? Poison someone? Run over someone? Give up my business? Give up my home? Let him sleep with my wife? Well, what service could this be? It could be anything. It's what's called in literature a Faustian bargain. I don't know if you've ever heard the story of Faust. You will, because it's part of being cultured. Faust is a guy who makes a deal with the devil to get what he wants. And then after he gets what he wants from the devil, he tries weaseling out of it to get his soul back. That's a Faustian bargain. A Faustian bargain is always about the soul. So, what the Undertaker has just done, quite literally, by agreeing to do an unspecified service, is he has sold his soul to the Godfather. He has sold his soul to the Mafia crime boss. Because the Mafia crime boss can ask anything. Unspecified service. Anything. That's patron-client loyalty. When the client agrees to be the patron's client, he doesn't put conditions on it. It's not, well, I'll do everything, but I won't violate my conscience. No. Well, I'll do anything, but I won't hurt another person. No. Well, I'll do it. No. Because then you're not doing anything. You're doing what suits you. In which case, you should go to the bank. I am offering you loyalty for loyalty, service for service. No money. It's about the relationship. And it's about respect. You're coming to me for help because I'm strong enough to hurt bad people. So it is a matter of personal respect. You are coming to me, one man as another, for my help, and you'd better come with respect in your heart. That's patron-client. And it is the basis of the way not only Roman society functions, but Italian society. We in America have this Anglo-Saxon notion that family shouldn't interfere with one's job. We don't like what's called nepotism. Do any of you know what that word nepotism means? Nepotism. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna have it. I think it's getting something special because of who you're related to.
Exactly. Did you have anything to add to that? Yeah. It's basically getting special favors because of who your relatives are. Some of you may end up working in restaurants for a while when you're in high school. It's not a bad, well, it's tough. But it's a job, and it's a good first job. So say you work at a restaurant for a whole year. You learn the job, and there's an assistant manager position opening up, and you might become an assistant manager in your senior year of high school. But then the owner of the restaurant's idiot nephew comes along, and he's an idiot, but he's the owner's nephew. He's going to get the assistant manager position because he's related, not because he's good. That's nepotism. We in America believe that nepotism is wrong, that it should be a meritocracy, that you should get only what you deserve, not on the basis of who you're related to. That's not the way it works in Italy. Even today, it's about one hand washing the other. It's about one person bending and bowing and kissing the ring, and the other person providing. It's about loyalty. It's about favors. And yes, it's also about vengeance. That may seem very old-fashioned, almost going back to the Middle Ages, but it is the way it is. And to understand Rome, you've got to understand this. In movies, Romans and Roman emperors particularly are usually portrayed by these classically trained British actors and actresses. They're like a super king of England or a super president of the United States. No. More than anything else, Roman emperors are like mafia crime bosses. They rule the same way a mafia crime boss rules. Through violence, through terror, through intimidation. Now, if they can do it while still seeming to be genteel and nice and lawful, all the better. But behind every Roman imperial act that will come is the sure and certain knowledge that the emperor controls the army, and the army will kill anyone on his command, including you, including your wife, including your children, including your pets. Burn your house to the ground, no due process of law. The emperor told me to, I'm doing it. That's what the soldiers do. It's the same power mafia crime bosses have. It is the power of death. You know what other country operates along these lines? Japan. The Japanese have an old system of patron-client relationships. And next year, when we talk about the beginning of Japanese attacks against China in Asia in the lead up to World War II, you're going to see how a group of young army officers called in favors from their patrons. And these army officers, not the generals and not the politicians in Tokyo, decided when and how and where to go to war with the outside world. That's a pretty amazing story. And that's for next year. Roman citizenship. Like all citizenship, is a mixture of duties and responsibilities as well as rights. Duties, responsibilities, and rights. Duties and privileges. First of all, this is an idea I personally like. It was written about in a book called Starship Troopers by Robert Heinlein, a science fiction writer from the mid-20th century. It was turned into a cheesy, bad movie in the 90s called Starship Troopers also. But the Roman idea that it's based on worked for a very long time. Remember, the Roman Republic it survives as a republic twice as long as the U.S. has been around. The principle is service equals citizenship. You know how you become a voter in Rome? You serve in the military. You serve with the legions. You put your life on the line for your country, and that's how you earn the right to vote. Because the Romans understand something. If you are not willing to put your one and only life on the line for your country, why should you have any business deciding its future? The Romans believed that you earn the right to shape the future of your country by being willing to risk your life for it in battle. So only those men who have served in the military are allowed to be citizens. Anyone else, they're subjects. So how would that work in the United States today? Well, first of all, you've got to tell everyone this is the way it's going to be to give people a chance. Secondly, if the standard is to risk your life for your country, what if somebody has injuries or developmental disabilities? Well, they volunteer for dangerous work, like testing drugs, like testing new equipment, like being the first one in an experimental building to see if it collapses on them. The point is, you take a real risk with your one and only life. And if you do that for a couple of years, you earn your citizenship. You get the right to vote. Everyone else in the society gets to live in the society. They get to be rich. They get to work hard. They get to have families. They make all the important decisions. The only thing they don't get to do is vote, because they never earned the right by putting their own life on the line for their country. Again, weird me, I don't think that's a bad idea. But that's not the way our society works. Our republic has expanded the number of people and the type of people that are allowed to vote, so that basically any adult in this country who's not a felon, a convicted felon in most states, can vote, as long as they're a citizen. In some states, being a citizen isn't solely important, California. And in some states, they allow felons to vote, sometimes even while they're still serving their time in jail. It is an unusual thing to allow murderers, kidnappers, rapists, and arsonists to vote, but some states think that, everyone should vote. In any event, we have expanded the franchise, that is the ability to vote, to almost everyone over the age of 18. The Romans restricted it during the height of their republic to men who had put their life on the line for their country. You can decide which is more wise. But one outcome of this is that the senators of Rome have a special title. See, back in the heyday of the Republic, the senators would go to the Senate building carrying their stools. They wouldn't sit on the marble. They would carry little stools that they would sit on. And people would greet them on their way to or from the Senate. Salve, conscript father. Good day, conscript father. What is conscript? A conscript is a draftee. is somebody whose nation calls and they serve in the military. The senators were the conscript fathers of Rome. They were men who had served in the military and lived to become leaders of Rome, fathers of Rome, conscript fathers. Now, our society allows rich people to get off out of their duty sometimes. And it's a disgraceful practice. For example, in the American Civil War, a person who was drafted in the North could pay for a poor person to take their place. So you're in a country at war so bad that it needs to tell its young men, we need you, come serve with the colors. It's not a volunteer army anymore. The country is telling you, commanding you, you will serve. And that is a duty of citizenship. If your country calls for you to service, you'd better serve. Otherwise, you're guilty of a crime. And they will make you pay. And they should. Because in wartime, countries need men. So the rich young man in a northern town can pay money for a poor young man in a northern town to serve in the military for him. That is disgraceful. Citizenship shouldn't care about your wealth or your poverty. It should care about your status as a citizen. And in that sense, all people are equal. You shouldn't be allowed to buy off the draft board and let somebody take your place. In the Vietnam War, something almost as shameful happens. In the Vietnam War, there are deferments because of people going to college. So a lot of people of military age during the Vietnam War stayed in college, went to grad school, got a doctorate, got a second doctorate. They became professional students, all to avoid military service. Do you know who can afford to do that? Working people can't afford to do that. Rich children can afford to do that. Families who are so wealthy, they'll just keep paying the ridiculous college bills. Oh, you want a degree in art history? Fine. Get your degree in art history. It'll keep you out of the jungles of Vietnam. Well, again, because the wealthy people could afford to do that, the wealthy avoided serving with the same frequency as poor people. And both the Civil War and the Vietnam War involved a lot of unpopular things related to the draft because of that. In the Civil War, the worst riots in New York City's history happened. They're called the draft riots. In the Vietnam War, we had all sorts of riots against the war, in part because it was an unfair system. The Romans did it right. Roman soldiers bought their own gear under the Republic. They bought their own equipment. The poorest of the poor could afford a spear and a helmet. They were in the third rank. There were two other ranks of men in front of them. They would reach over with their spear, and they had their helmet. The middle-class Romans, carpenters, blacksmiths, and so forth, they could afford the spear and the helmet of the poor person, but they could also probably afford a shield or a breastplate. So they've got some body armor, and they're in the second rank. The poorest are behind them, and they have to reach over the guys in front of them to hit with the spear. The wealthiest men of Rome were the only ones that could afford greaves, breastplate, shield, sword, spear, helmet. The richest men in Rome literally led the middle class and the poor into battle. The richest men in Rome were in the front rank, taking the greatest risks, because the richest men in Rome could afford the full body armor. What that means is the social order was reflected in battle. Instead of rich people getting out of their civic duty, rich people took higher risks than the poor, than the middle class. They earned the respect of their fellow citizens by being brave in battle. And that's the way it should be, in the sense of morality. If you're going to be a leader, you should pay for that leadership by being worthy of being followed. And in Roman times, what that meant was taking the greatest risks in battle. So in the Roman army of the Republic, the rich were in the front line of battle, taking the greatest risks. The middle class were in the middle rank of battle, taking some risks. And the poor were in the third rank of battle, taking fewer risks. And that is as it should be. Tomorrow, we're going to cover this material. And then Thursday, you're going to have your quiz on the geography of Italy and everything we've done in Roman history up till the end of that lecture. Thank you for your attention. You may talk quietly among yourselves. Have a good day.